What's up, family? Welcome to another episode of Book Talks with Madrian. I'm your boy, Madrian Lowe. Please like, subscribe, and share this video and other videos on the page. If you like all things bookish and Black folks culture, that's what I'm talking about most of the time. Sometimes a little bit of politics and Black history because I am a civil rights lawyer by trade, but primarily just culture and things of the like. And today I want to talk about Walter Mosley's latest book, Ghalen, A Romance in Black. So Ghalen by Walter Mosley is a romance that is atypical in so many ways, and a book that I think none of us thought it was going where it went, but it was just a phenomenal read for me. I give it a solid 4 out of 5. I think it was a great story. It was the first romance story I've ever read written by a man, and I think it was good to have that perspective and see it differently. But also I think that there were just some common themes in this book that I could learn from, but also just like fell in love with the characters as I was reading it as well. In addition to talking about this book, I've also made an accompanying playlist that I shared on my Instagram and TikTok account where I kind of accompanied some of the passages in the book, certain pages in the book, with certain songs and certain themes in the book. And I'll talk about that more in depth throughout this video as well. But the whole playlist is about 30 songs that I went through and I curated that have some sort of significance or some sort of relevance to the book, in my opinion and in my understanding of the book. And it just kind of was like a soundtrack for the book. If this book were to be produced into a movie, these are some of the songs that I would select as a director or EP of that movie to include in the book in order to help kind of broadcast and bring out some of those themes and points in the book. But yeah, let's talk about Ghalen. So Ghalen, as described, I will tell y'all straight up, I picked up this book because of the cover. Like, the cover, it did it for me. When I think about artists and authors creating cover art that just kind of like tells a story on its own, like this looks like a piece of art to me. Like, I would hang this up in my house, just this picture by itself. So that did it for me. And that was like, yeah, I don't even care what it's about. I want to read it based on the cover art. But the synopsis, according to Walter Mosley and his publishers, Ghalen, a brilliant young Black man, is the son of two seemingly mismatched parents. His mother, Jamila, a gifted scientist whose own mother expected her to exceed all the achievements in her family, and his father, Robert, a gentle cook at a small vegan restaurant whose idiosyncratic nature shows the young woman a radically different love and understanding of life despite his inexperience and lack of education. His parents' grand love story starts it all off, setting us up to follow Ghalen and his family so deeply that each new twist and turn feels personal. Galen's journey as he ventures out into the world is marked by peaks and valleys, and such a drive that you can't help but fall in for it all while not wanting it to end. Ghalen touches on the lives of those whose deepest thoughts and motivations are seldom explored: the neurodivergent, the incarcerated, the immigrant, tortured by their past, to name a few. These are the characters who will stay with you and change how you see the world. I actually didn't even read that before I read the book. This is my first time reading that, and I was inspired to read that because I was watching Black Lit Geek's video about it. And if you want a non-spoiler review version of this book, I suggest heading over to his page to watch that, because I'm going to talk spoilers in the book. I'm going to talk about the book thoroughly. This is a conversation for people who've already read Ghalen, not for folks who are thinking about reading it. So if you want a review that just drops hints, head over to Black Lit Geek's page and watch his review, because we're going to get down to the business in mind. But yeah, this book was like, it was deep. It was deep in a lot of ways. And I think that when I first read it and I saw how folks were responding to it, I was like, I must have missed something, because I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was as good as and necessary of all the praise it was getting. Like, it was good. Like, I would have gave it like a 3 out of 5 on the first read and basic understanding. But then when I went back and reread some passages and listened to Walter Mosley talk about the book, and also just listen to some other Black men talk through their experience of the book and other Black women as well, I was like, okay, I get it now and I understand. And so Ghalen follows first, like the introduction said, the love story of Jamila Fenestra and Robert Horton. And Robert and Jamila meet and fall madly in love. And that is the first setup of the book. Like, so for the first 5 chapters, I think Ghalen is born in like chapter 6. Yeah. So Ghalen doesn't come into the book until chapter 9. The first introduction to Ghalen is at page 67. And so for the first 66 pages, which I feel like the first part of the book could be a separate book. Like there's so much unexplored about Jamila and Robert's lives before they meet each other. And also like who they are, their love story itself. Like we get a lot of details about it, but that story even can be explored and expanded on some more. Their love story could have been, I don't know what he would have called it, because in a lot of ways, Ghalen does represent a manifestation. Even Ghalen says that at some point in the book, a manifestation of Robert and Jamila's loves, and all their hopes and dreams and desires are poured and birthed into him. But Robert and Jamila's story is from the beginning complicated and inexplicably hard. So Robert is, we assume, even though Walter never uses the language of autistic or on the language, he uses the R word and kind of describes that that's the way that he was talked about as a child, and also the way that he was described by like his peers and also Jamila's mom. We're set up from the beginning to kind of get this understanding that Robert is different, and Robert processes and sees the world different. Robert is a one person, one thing at a time type of guy. And the way that he talks about everything in the book is with a level of intentionality and with a level of like thought and precision and follow through that is, it's setting us up to understand the way that he expresses love. So very early in the book, there's a scene where Jamila and Robert go to a museum and they are looking at this painting, and Robert had never been to a museum before, and it's the first time he ever sees a painting. And he's staring at this painting, he gets kind of close, and the guard and him have this tense moment. And Jamila is ready to go, so she leaves and goes to another exhibit throughout the museum, and Robert stays there the entire time looking at that painting. And I kind of glossed over that in my first read, but after watching Walter Mosley's interview, the point that he was trying to articulate to us was that Robert is someone who takes his time and does tasks one at a time. He stood there and looked at that painting for hours, which is what the book says. The book says he stood and looked at that painting for hours, and Jamila had went through the entire museum. And I thought that was like a hell of an example to talk about, to display the way that the meticulousness, but also the level of intention that Robert gave to tasks and things in life in general. Because how many times have you walked through a museum and looked at paintings, and then how many of those paintings have made like a lasting impression on you? Or how many times have you gave a painting a layer and a level of analysis that requires you to go deeper than just like looking at it from the surface level perspective of it, and just kind of, seeing what the colors the artist used? But how many times have you really looked at it and thought about what the artist was trying to say and what they were trying to come across, what point they were trying to make to you? And this scene happens very early in the book. Like, this is one of the first things that happens. So on page 12, forgetting her in that instant, Robert turned back to the largest painting, trying to understand what it was saying. That's how it felt, that the painting was talking to him, trying to explain something hitherto unknown. This knowledge was in and around the branches and leaves of the composition. It had a sound and a physical rhythm, though Robert would not have used those words to explain his feeling. And so Jamila goes through the rest of the museum and looks at other exhibits, and she comes back eventually and she asks him, "Did you go anywhere else?" He said, "No. You just stayed here and looked at this one painting?" "Yeah, I couldn't understand the other ones we looked at because they didn't say anything to me. You know what I mean?" Jamila hummed. She heard something, felt something in these words and his tone that she had not known before. But this one, it was like it was telling me something, but in Spanish or Chinese, Did you figure it out?" Jamila asked. "Yeah, I realized that the painting was something that you couldn't see. The wind bending the branches and slapping the leaves all over. You could even see it in the clouds in the sky above that. I mean, it's crazy seeing one thing, but knowing there was something more than that." Jamila stopped to look deeper, wondering why she herself hadn't approached the painting in that way. And that is indicative of the balance of the book, of the way that Robert expresses and shows love, and the way he shows up for Jamila particularly, really just like a man of action and and his love is a physical demonstration of his intention to show up and be at everything wherever he's told to be, and like however long, if however much he must endure it. But we also know, we learned that very early on that he's autistic, or maybe on the spectrum in the way that he processes like social interactions and also just like things differently. He takes his time with things, but also he thinks through things before he answers, and he has a very sharp and particular routine and route that he follows to and from work and things like that. Robert and Jamila at some point go to meet her mom, Pristine, who I could not stand. Oh my God, she got on my nerves the entire book. She was just like terrible. But in the end, I ended up understanding her, even though I didn't like her. I did understand her character and why she did what she did. Ultimately, when I got to the end of the book, not because Walter Mosley explains it, but because of the way that he writes her relationships and the way that he writes her presence is that of a mom who doesn't agree with a child's decision, but also still wants to do what she feels like is best for those involved in her life, and ultimately that she has responsibility and care for. Overview of all the characters in the book. So we have Robert and Jamila, then we have their son Ghalen, we have Robert's mother Myrtle, we have Jamila's mother Pristine, we have Jamila's father Knight, who we believe is dead till we find out that he's not dead. We have Galen's other friends. I mean, there's some other non-important characters in Jamila's life. You have Minta and Minta's boyfriend, I can't think of his name at the time. And then you have, on the other side with Robert, you have Robert's like mentor / father figure, who's a chef at the restaurant he works at. You have his co-workers, who are a slew of characters. And then you have this other woman named Aura, who becomes his second wife after Jamila dies. So if I'm referencing some of those names, those are who I'm talking about at certain points in the book. Jamila and Robert fall fast in love. In the first 60 pages kind of runs us through their love story, their background with her getting pregnant, her getting married to Robert, Jamila introducing Robert to her mother not approving because she can tell very quickly that Robert is autistic or something's wrong with him in the way he processes. And ultimately, when she tells her mother that she's pregnant and she's married to Robert, her mother disowns her and decides she wants nothing else to do with her. We get to a point in the book where basically Jamila and Robert are parenting and just living with this brilliant child who is like so smart and so amazing in so many ways. And one thing that I thought that I felt so much is like being a child that has also been deemed to be quote unquote smart, because Ghalen is written to be my age. He was born in 99. I was born in 99 as well. So he'd be about 27 in the present world. One of the things that I felt in the book that I kind of resonated with Ghalen about was the weight that parents put on Black children, or the children in general, when they feel like they're smart enough to assume responsibility. I think it's a mistake sometimes that parents make because they feel like if a child is smart, they can grow up faster than other children, and that they can assume some of the obligations and like the life's requirements that they have to way faster than, other kids should. And there's like even conversation before one of the big points in the book, which is Jamila's death. There's conversation about like allowing Ghalen to be a child. And the biggest proponent of that is Robert. Like Jamila, who is so smart and has always been kind of gifted and talented and pushed to exceed expectations and bounds by her mother and her family, is desiring to put Ghalen in a grade ahead, while Robert is like, no, let's leave him where he is. He has friends here. He's already in a space where he's like comfortable and established as a kid. He's able to thrive and just be a child in that space. Whereas if he goes ahead a grade, he'll have to grow up in a lot of ways and be more adult than he should have to be at his current age. And ultimately, because his mother dies, and I think the importance and the level setting with that was that while Robert did his best to try to protect Galen's childhood, he ultimately ended up being the reason that Ghalen didn't get to have one. Because for the duration of his childhood, after his mom dies, he has to take care of his dad. What an awesome responsibility it was that Ghalen had to assume from that point on for the rest of his life. And I think it kind of sets up this path to like, not failure, but this path to falling that Ghalen goes on, and where he goes from being this bright, shining star student who was able to just do everything and take care of business, and to be he's consistently applauded and complimented like throughout his life by adults for the way that the level of maturity he displays and the level of intellect he has. And when Jamila dies, Pristine finds out and comes to the funeral and finds out about Ghalen. You know, she was worried that he may have intellectual disabilities or be maybe autistic in the way that Robert is. And when she finds out that he's so smart, she takes Robert to court and tries to fight for custody of him. And ultimately in court, Robert ends up saying pretty much the same thing that he said to his wife about, you know, why he should have custody of Ghalen. Here it is right here. Miss Fenestra's lawyer keeps talking about how smart Ghalen is and how much potential he got. But he never talked about his health and happiness, about the time he needs to be a child. He goes to a very good school and never gets nothing but A's. He's healthy and strong and has some very good friends. Miss Fenestra's lawyer says that we've got to bear down on the boy being smart and using that brain of his, but he already doing that. What he needs to do is lighten up and just have fun like any other child. So yeah, so essentially we go through that and we deal with kind of how Ghalen is navigating that and the custody battle between Pristine and Galen's father, Robert. And there's just so much responsibility that he has to kind of carry as a kid. And, you know, he ends up, once his mom dies, transferring to another school, skipping ahead a grade, and really growing up really fast because he knows he has to take care of his father. Now, so there was this relationship he had with his two best friends, Bruno and lovely Fran, where he has to leave them kind of behind because he has to go ahead and, you know, pursue this education at this really good school so he can be better and be in a different space and be, you know, a better child. Ultimately, his two friends, Bruno and lovely Fran, kind of fall down the wrong track and, you know, become, you know, they drop out of school. Bruno becomes a drug dealer, gangbanger, all the things that, you know, you don't want your child to become. And at some point they like catch up in life and reconcile with each other. Bruno's in jail and Lovely was supposed to be Galen's first girlfriend. When he got to the 6th grade, they were supposed to date. It's one of the things they say in the book as elementary school kids, but Ghalen skipped ahead a grade. And so he ended up not being at the same school as them. And ultimately him and lovely Fran didn't date, but they still were in love with each other. And they sleep with each other and they just kind of manifest the love they have for each other. And it is like the start of all of the problems for Ghalen. And made me think about that song, I Wish I Never Met Her by Carl Thomas, because it's like, I know he thinks about that every time. Even though I love her so, and she got love for me. I know he wish he never met Lovely. But yeah, there's just all this responsibility that he has to kind of manage and deal with as a young kid, taking care of his dad, and also like navigating life, trying to figure out who he is, what he wants to do, while being incredibly smart, but also like having all this responsibility. It's a lot for a kid, I could imagine. I think that he just is like overwhelmed by all of it. At the end of one of the paragraphs, it says, that night Ghalen lay awake in his bed thinking about Bruno standing there helpless while Lovely cried, and about his grandmother, who was naturally angry but still loved by his mom. He wondered why it was so hard for him to cry. Didn't he feel sad about his mother? No, he thought, I'm not sad, I'm empty. And, you know, that's like, I think that's a demonstration of, Walter sets up kind of the headspace that Ghalen is in. And even though he has all of these external things that should quantify and make him successful, but ultimately he ends up going down the wrong tracks. So the next parts of the book, Ghalen leaves, goes away to college. He's still messing with lovely Fran. Comes home one day. Lovely gets in a situation. So I forgot to explain one part. Let me go back. We deal with the part where Bruno ends up going to jail. So Bruno goes to jail and trying to help out his friend. Ghalen gets his lawyer, the administrator of his estate, tells her about Bruno and his legal problems. And ultimately he ends up getting a lawyer for his partner to get him out of jail. Mind you, while this is happening, he's still sleeping with his best friend's girlfriend, Lovely, right? But that was also kind of his girl first. So he's sleeping with her, and so he's going back and forth with that. So he ends up, you know, helping her out, getting a lawyer. Then he decides he's done. She decides she wants to run away. Galen's like, nah, I can't do that. I gotta worry about my pops. So she runs off. Some time passes. Ghalen goes to college, meets this older woman, is dealing with her. It's a Russian woman, is dealing with her. Kind of just like exploring and finding himself. Ends up working as a line cook at a restaurant in connection with someone he picked, a hitchhiker that he picked up, an African restaurant, and he meets this really cool, like African lady who they talk about everything, and they just kind of chill out and explore each other. And she ultimately's like, I have someone for you. I want you to date my niece or whatever. And so he's like, okay, really don't think much else of it. But he decides to go home one day. Goes home to see his pops. His pops says Lovely calls. Ghalen and Lovely connect. You go back over to the crib. Ghalen and Lovely have sex. Ghalen goes to sleep, wakes up, and Lovely's gone. He getting dressed, he feeling good. You know, you just got done having sex with your little, you know, you feeling all right. You feel like everything shit. I'm feeling all right. Gets up, opens the door. Bruno's at the door. Bruno say, what the fuck? Next thing you know, Ghalen is going down. He think he got hit in the head, or he think maybe somebody like knocked him out or something. This nigga Bruno shot Ghalen in the head. His childhood best friend shot him in the head. Now this is where Walter Mosley lost me with this book, because not only did he shoot this nigga in the head, he dropped his drugs, shot him in the head. Then when the police get there and start questioning him about, you know, like what happened and what's going on, this nigga Ghalen like, nah, it wasn't Bruno. Bruno didn't shoot me. It was a white man that shot me. Bruno didn't shoot me though. And so like he shot his best friend in the head. He shot his best friend in the head. I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that Bruno did it. I couldn't believe that Ghalen didn't realize what was happening. I couldn't believe that when like they asked him questions about the shit, Ghalen was covering for the nigga. Like, I'm like Bernie Mac on Def Comedy Jam. The motherfucking judge asked me what happened. It was me, Your Honor. That nigga was there. He did it. I'm telling, like, nigga, snitch. Like, nigga, what? And then on top of all of this, so Ghalen gets shot in the head, is in the hospital for getting shot in the head, for the nigga that he got out of jail. Now, granted, it is dirty to sleep with this. What Kendrick say? You fuck with Wayne girl while he was in jail. That's conniving. Now, it is dirty to fuck with somebody's woman while they in jail. That is objectively wrong. But damn, you shoot the nigga in the head? Like he shot him in the head, bro. In the head. He was trying to kill him. On GP. Bruno wanted it. Bruno, it was on site with Bruno. It was immediate. So he shoots him in the head. And Bruno also is carrying drugs when he goes to his house. He drops the drugs at the door. And because Ghalen refuses to admit that it was his friend that that shot him in the head, the police charge him with drug distribution because of the drugs that were found there. Ultimately, though, the judge kind of sees through it. You know, he has these connections now through his pops, through Robert, who has a connection through Chef. Chef has like really blown up now. Chef not only has a restaurant that he runs that Robert kind of manages, but he has opened up several other restaurants across like the West Coast. And partners had looked out for him. They looked out for Ghalen when he was at USC. So they get him a really fancy lawyer. And the lawyer has connection with the judge. And the judge ends up getting a 1-year bid at like a low-level area where he serves out his sentence. But it really does seem, it is still very much prison. And even there, people are able to notice like there's something different about Ghalen. Like he's the prize pick of the warden and of the other inmates there. And he has an opportunity to like, even there, like it is still prison. So there is a chance for him to like increase his sentence. And he does like commit crimes and ultimately in defense of other men who were being raped by this like violent character in the book. Even in that sense, he is able to escape. He's changed fundamentally, right? And there's a change that happens with him. Like he doesn't lose himself. Like the journey that Ghalen goes throughout the entire book is not necessarily him losing himself, but it's him finding himself by shedding the responsibilities that that has been placed on him. Like, and I think when he gets to prison at the kind of like the end of the book, Ghalen is really trying to wrestle or reconcile with like who he is now, what he's done, and like really still living the consequences of other folks' decisions for him. And it's not till he gets to prison that he has to like make choices on his own for the first time, dealing with the post-traumatic stress of the brain injury he has. He has a first, like a bullet, of literal wound in his head from the bullet injury. And he's now like, he's experiencing mood shifts in a very quick and rampant way. But he also is dealing with, you know, just the very real impacts of being in prison. And, you know, we get to the end of the book. One of my favorite parts of the book is the relationship that sprouts between Christine and Myrtle. Myrtle is Robert's mom, who is mentally incompetent, and she tries to kill one of her boyfriends. It's been put in like a assisted for the mental health hospital, the mental home, right, where she lives primarily, and she ends up living for a really long time in the book. Not only does Jamila die, but also Pristine dies. But Jamila and Pristine, Myrtle and Pristine end up becoming friends, which I thought was kind of poetic, because I think Pristine being friends with Myrtle represents in a lot of ways her understanding of love. Like, to me, like there's so many subtle love stories in this book and so many additional layers of love in the book that I could really talk about it like forever. But there's like, with Myrtle and Pristine, them being friends represents to me in the way that Pristine's acknowledgement or recognition of love to her is care. Like at her core, love is about care. So in order for her child, Jamila, to be the best, she provided care. Like she gave her the best opportunity when she thought that her husband, Knight, died in the war, even though he shows up later in the book. When she thought he died, she provided care to her daughter. She gave her daughter what she needed to succeed and to be successful, and in order to become Dr. Jamila Finston, right? To do all the things, to be PhD and to be successful in that way. And for Robert, love was not about care, not only just care and provision, but also care also looks like making decisions that you may believe are better for someone's well-being than what they believe, right? Which means for Myrtle, putting her in a mental home because she can't make those type of decisions on her own or make like rational decisions on her own, in the same way that she would have taken Ghalen from Robert in order to make sure that he was taken well care of and like given the things he needed in order to be successful. And who's to say that lovely Fran and Bruno still wouldn't have found their way into Galen's life, you know, if he moved away with, who's to say their lives would have been differently had he still moved away to live with his grandmother and went to a different school and been a different person still. Who's to say like life still wouldn't have happened for him in the way it did? Same thing with Jamila. Jamila's type of love is like words of affirmation. It's the saying of love. It's the things you say and how you talk about it. That's how she expresses love. Robert's an actions love person. Like Robert's love looks like cooking a meal for you, or taking care of you, or holding the umbrella for you, or for, like Jamila describes him as a chair and a ladder, like being there for you to be able to sit down and take time and sit in a space and in a moment and discuss and learn something, but also being able to lift one up to promote them to the next level and get them to wherever it is they're trying to go. Galen's love looked like acts of service. Ghalen was in service of everybody in the book. Like Ghalen, literally, his love for his family meant that he had to surrender and like deny himself. And then, you know, you have the other platonic relationships of love and the fast love. You know, you have the puppy love between Fran and Ghalen, where they think they have this type of love and desire for each other that's really just, you know, their first expression of true desire. And then you have Ghalen falling in love with the woman that he ends up being with at the end of the book, whose name I can't remember at this moment, but the lady's niece. You have the platonic love that he has between Ding and him, who Ding is like this kind of he's like a marker for a turn in the book in Galen's life, because he becomes a reflector for him for all of the negative and the bad experiences that Ghalen kind of has, and a place for like a repository for all the anger that he develops as a consequence of his time in prison. But he also is a marker and a direction, like a redirector to the place in his life where I think he ultimately will end up. In a lot of ways, I think it was always kind of predestined that Ghalen ended up like his father as a cook in a restaurant, and maybe even in more capacity as the head chef. Like that could be a continuation of this story. Because of his accolades and his accomplishment and his intellect, he can go further than his father. But I think that him being redirected by Ding to a restaurant and meeting his wife there was kind of an indication that he was never really allowed, like Ding was a mirror for Ghalen in a lot of ways, and he was never allowed a chance to see himself and like figure out who he wanted to be. And he got that chance through the platonic relationship and the love he got from his friend who becomes his family, Ding. And then you just have other types of love. You have the platonic love between him and Bruno, and that relationship, really developing into something else and blossoming into something more substantive as they become adults, and him really taking the charge for him and saving Bruno's life and changing Bruno's life in a lot of ways. We see Bruno get his shit together at the end of the book. And now Galen's someone who's going to be always kind of like in the criminal justice system in the same way Bruno is, but not without a murder charge, of course. He has a child and names him after Ghalen. Lovely has kind of got her life together, got a girlfriend now. And so we see this kind of shift in the book in the way that, because, I don't know if I'll say because like of the, even in sacrifice of himself, Ghalen ends up saving everyone else still, because he takes a charge of Bruno, but also he kind of saves his friend's life, even though his friend tried to take his. Like, in a lot of ways, the gunshot was a death of the Ghalen who existed for the purpose of fulfilling other folks' dreams, and a birth of the Ghalen who kind of got the chance to choose himself for the first time. And I thought that was like one of the most powerful and most impactful parts of the book for sure. Nasra is his girlfriend's name. So yeah, that's my thoughts about Ghalen. And ultimately, I forgot, of course, about the love between father and son, which is the love that sustains most of this book, which I think is the true romance of this book between Ghalen and his father, Robert. That love story is one of patience, of kindness, and also of patience. The love story between Robert and Ghalen is one of patience, of kindness, but also one of understanding and obligation. Because as much as Robert, in a lot of ways, Ghalen has to become responsible for Robert. He's obligated to take care of his father, and that responsibility is inferred on him from his mother, right? Who kind of says without saying that you have to take care of dad now. And she does say it expressly in her letter. And he also knows this because he knows that his father can't really compute or understand life in a way that he needs to without his wife there. And so while Robert is a provider and a caretaker for Ghalen, Ghalen in some ways becomes Robert's caretaker, and making sure that he's able to navigate life in a social way, in a way that a parent would care for a child as a child. It shows that I think a lot of that responsibility and inference was maybe a little unfair or maybe a little presumptuous on Jamila and Galen's part, because ultimately the life that Robert was trying to give Ghalen in some ways denied himself, and his mother denied him, because they inferred a responsibility that he would have to take care of Robert, when Robert was just trying to give Ghalen a chance to be a kid. And I think that had Ghalen maybe leaned to that a bit more, because a lot of the choices, and I feel like the obligations and the loneliness that Ghalen felt came as a consequence of him feeling like he couldn't talk to his dad about, the things he was dealing with and the ways he was struggling. And his father never really said that he couldn't, or that he wouldn't understand. That was just an assumption that he wouldn't, because of his neurodivergence, or the assumption that he was neurodivergent. And so that's a really impactful thing. It's like that prayer. It's like that. Oh man, what's this? How's that song go? But all the point of the psalm is we carry so much worries and anxieties in our lives. We could take it to God in prayer. The same thing kind of with Ghalen and his father. How many burdens and assumptions and responsibilities did Ghalen carry in this book that he didn't have to carry had he taken that to his father. And I think the lesson in that for me and for the readers is because the love story begins with that of Robert and Jamila and ends with that of Robert and Ghalen. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I think talking about it more now and listening to other people talk about it more has made me really think more deeply about the book and what it had to say and the thoughts on love. I thought it was dope to see a Black man write about love and his perspective and his take on his understanding on it. Because a lot of times with women writers, there was a lot of focus on the sensuality and the sex between Robert and Jamila, but also between Ghalen and some of the people he slept with in the book, like Lovely or the woman he married, or Veronica, this little Russian woman that had a sub story in the book. There wasn't a focus on that, but there was I could see very clearly how Walter was trying to tell us people's love languages without expressly saying it. It was like he was showing us how people loved and how they wanted to be loved throughout the book without telling us this is Rebecca's love language, this is Robert's love language, this is Jamila's love language. And I thought that was dope to see. I thought that was a dope way of writing to see how people express and understood love to be shown. But yeah, those are my thoughts about Ghalen. If you like the book, please be sure to grab a copy. You can grab a copy at my link below, which links all my other reads as well at my bookshop. If you buy from there, you support local and Black-owned bookshops as well. And yeah, I'll be sure to post more videos like this if you enjoy it. Be sure to check out the accompanying Spotify link that I created and curated for this book. And yeah, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoy this type of content. This was a longer video. I typically try to get these in about 10 minutes, but this is a deep dive in this book and to talk about kind of some of the stories and themes and plots that I enjoyed talking about during this read of this book. So that's my thoughts. If you have any other thoughts, I know I missed some parts for sure, but if you have thoughts or things you thought about, let me know in the comments and I'm happy to talk about those with you as well. Love and light. I'll holla. Peace.